Good afternoon, students. I hope you are all fine and you are enjoying the good days of your life. You are watching Ibex Education YouTube channel. Today we are starting John Milton's epic poetry, John Milton's Paradise Lost Book 1, and in this discussion we shall try to cover the starting 12 lines critically. And before starting our discussion, let's move ahead. Students, before starting the text, I have to clear the few things. First of all, that is related to the different characters that are very important in the Paradise Lost Book 1 especially. There will be introduction of a lot of other characters that we shall discuss later. The first and the main character is known as Adam, and the second main character is known as Eve. Both were actually, Adam was the father of mankind and the Eve is the mother of mankind, and both were living in the paradise. And in paradise they were blessed with a lot of blessings by Allah, but there was just the one restriction of the forbidden tree, and God advised them not to go near that particular forbidden tree. But due to the instigation of Satan, who was the chief of at that time, and before the creation of Adam and Eve, Satan was the chief of angels as well as, and his name was Lucifer, and later he was the chief of the devils with the name of Satan known. And actually God has decided to make Adam his second, and this thing created the feelings of envy and the feelings of jealousy in Satan, who considered that his status has been disregarded by God. He was deserving that post, being the archangel. Actually Satan was not the angel, but by the grace of God he was appointed as the head of angels as well as. That's why he was thinking his status has been disregarded, and he decided to betray the mother of mankind and the Adam as well as. For this thing he has instigated the mother of mankind first to go and to eat the food of that forbidden tree that have been restricted, that have been prohibited by God to them. But due to the spell of instigation, Eve ate that fruit, and in the love of Eve, by following Eve, Adam also did the same act, and this thing turned the life of both Adam and Eve, and it made God angry on them. And from here the miseries of mankind have been started, and from this section the poet is starting the poem, that is Paradise Lost Book 1. Now let's move ahead to discuss the text. Let me clear this first. Okay. I will read the first 5 lines, because in 5 lines the poet has discussed one idea. I have to explain it first, then I will go ahead to the next lines. And students, first of all I will read the text, and after that I will discuss with you the complicated words for their meanings, for their history as well as, and then I will explain it. Let's move the text. Of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world, and all our woe with the loss of Eden, till one greater man restore us and regain the blissful seat. These 5 lines I have read in for you. Now move ahead to the line 1 for the complicated words, for their meanings and the ideas behind the words. First disobedience. Actually first disobedience is the very act of disobedience that was committed by Adam and Eve in paradise, and that was to go near the forbidden tree, or the tree of knowledge. It has a lot of different names in Christianity. They are calling it as the tree of knowledge, tree of forbidden tree, as well as it is also known as apple tree, like that. It has so many names and in different religions. And the fruit means fruit of that forbidden tree that was prohibited to both Adam and Eve. And mortal taste means the taste of those trees, means the result of tasting that fruit, and it brought death into the world. Student, remember this thing: before having the taste of that forbidden tree, there was no concept of death for mankind, for the mother and the father of mankind. There was no worries, tensions. Worry means miseries, pains, tensions, worries. And even by tasting the fruit of that forbidden tree, they have to be deprived of their paradise, their status, their homeland, their home in paradise, and they have to spend the miserable life in this world in which we are living nowadays. And no doubt it was a loss to be introduced with the death, miseries, tension, worries. No, but the great loss was the loss of Eden. The mankind, both father and the mother of mankind, were deprived of the paradise lost, where they were living a happy life before the instigation of Satan, the chief devil. And the poet is talking about the greater man. Greater man is here Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. And poet says Jesus Christ will come and restore us, and when he will come and he will reform us, he will purify us, and after that we shall regain the blissful seed. Blissful seed means paradise that have been lost by the mother and the father and the mother of mankind. Now I will explain the whole idea have been discussed in these 5 lines. Actually, in these lines, writer is introducing the main theme of the paradise lost, that is the tradition of epic, to introduce the theme of an epic poem in the starting section, in the preluding section of the poem. And the same have been done by the John Milton. From the very first line, the John Milton has introduced the theme of disobedience. Actually, this act of disobedience was the eating. Actually, this was committed by the father and the mother of mankind, both Adam and Eve, when they have eaten the fruit of forbidden tree. Actually, this fruit of forbidden tree does not bring any pleasure for them, any happiness for them. Instead of, it brings death, worries, tensions, problems, miseries, pains, and their unhappy life in this earth. And most of all these things, they lost the Eden, they lost the paradise. And the poet says that he is not a pessimistic. The poet says there is a ray of hope. There is a last ray of hope, and that ray of hope is the Jesus Christ, that is the greater man. And when the Jesus Christ will come, he will purify us, he will reform us, he will purify us, and he will make us able to restore. And with the guidance of, under the leadership of Jesus Christ, the time will come when we shall again get the blissful seat back. And here one idea have been discussed, students, is regarding the theme. Remember this thing, John Milton's theme. No doubt theme is the very act of disobedience by the father and the mother of mankind. And remember this thing, students. In this theme, the theme is John Milton's theme is the grand theme. It is not covering just the one nation, one territory, one land, a people of one area, like the Greek epics of Homer, Virgil. No doubt, those are the masterpiece of the time, but both are discussing the theme related to their own nation, small nation, territory, a city, like that. But the John Milton's theme is grand, and it is covering the whole humanity. No doubt, in the act of disobedience by Adam and Eve, the whole human race, their offsprings in this world, are facing the problems. And the writer is saying that in this way, when the greater man will come, when the Jesus Christ will come and restore us, and in reward the whole humanity will be the beneficiary to get the blissful seat once again. And these ideas have been discussed here. Let's move to the next lines, and we shall see there what have been discussed by the poet. Okay, next is sing, heavenly muse, that on the secret top of Oreb or Sinai didst inspire, that shepherd who first taught the chosen seed, in the beginning how heavens and earth rose out of chaos. Or if Sion hill delight thee more, and the seal was brook that flowed fast by the oracle of God. Up to this one. Here I have marked God. Up to this thing, the writer has discussed the new ideas, and here one idea, one concept have been completed by the poet, and this much will be the topic of our next discussion. And let's move to the next discussion. Student, first of all, here, what is the meaning of muse? Actually, heavenly muse means God. And after that, secret top, actually Oreb and Sinai, both are the tops, mountain tops. And Oreb is the top where the prophet Moses first time, prophet Moses, they see a fire in a bush, and when the prophet Moses was attracted toward that bush fire, there he has heard the God's voice of God. And here the God gave the prophet Moses orders to go to Egypt and to preach the Egyptian Pharaoh, Egyptian nations, and Israelites. And if they are not accepting his message, then he was instructed to liberate the Israelites from the long hundreds of years of slavery, of Egyptian slavery. And on Sinai, this is once again the biblical reference as well as, and this is the name of a very sacred or the sacred mountain. And this was the place where the God gave the 10 commandments to the Moses for his nation, for his believers, for his followers. And inspire means a source of motivation. Shepherd means a person whose duty is to mind the shepherd, whose duty is to mind the goat or the sheep. Actually, this was the profession of the prophet Moses. After his marriage, he was bound to work for 10 years as a shepherd. And after that, he went to the Oreb. There he met with the voice of God and got the instructions for the future. And chosen seed, actually chosen seed means the current days Jews. Actually, chosen seed is the title, is the word used for Israelites and the offsprings of the prophet Jacob, and who were the slave in Egypt, who are also known as Israelites. And actually, on Oreb, on the mountain of Oreb, the prophet Moses was given instruction to liberate the Israelites from the slavery of Egyptian people as well as Egyptian pharaohs. And no doubt they were made slave for many hundred years ago, right after the death of the prophet Joseph, who was living in Egypt. Anyways, heavens and earth are the reference related to the skies and earth. And after that, Zion Hill. Actually, Zion Hill is somewhere in the city of Jerusalem. And the Jerusalem is the sacred city, that is holy city for all the God-made religions like Jews, Christians, as well as Muslims. Actually, this was the name of hill on which the sacred city of the Jerusalem was built first time, even in the time of the prophet David and the prophet Solomon. And then Silva's brook. Actually, this is a brook that was flowing very fast beside the Zion Hill, on which the oracle of the God, the house of God, the temple of God was constructed first time. And there the first temple was constructed by the Jews in the city of Jerusalem. And remember this thing, student, and right now the Jews are also talking about the construction of the temple, and this temple is third temple. Already 2 temples they have constructed, and both temples have been destroyed first of all by the Babylonian king, whose name was Nebuchadnezzar, and the second time it was destroyed by the Roman king, whose name was the Roman army general, whose name was the Titus. And remember this thing. Now they are also trying to make the third temple in Israel right now. And a lot of these things are discussed by the different people on YouTube and on social media, etc. And that is reality as well as. And now, students, we shall start to discuss the points of this section. Actually, sing means to seek. Seek means to want to get. And students, here what poet is doing? He says, sing heavenly muse that on the secret top of Oreb or Sinai did as inspire the shepherd. Actually here the poet is giving the reference to the prophet Moses, who was also a shepherd. And poet says, poet wants to invoke, poets want to seek the help of great God. Actually, to seek the help of God according to the religions is epical tradition that is known as invocation to the muse. Actually it was epical tradition. Epical poets, ancient epic poets like Homer, Virgil, what they were doing, they were invoking their god and goddesses, and they were invoking the help of their god whose name was Muse, and goddesses, sorry, and god, actually Muse is the goddesses of poetry according to the Greek traditions, and who were living in, and that was a group of 9 muses, different muses, and the muse who was living on the Mount Helicon was the goddess of poetry. And whenever they were writing epic, it was a tradition, epical tradition, to call or to try to seek the help of their goddess who was living on the Mount Helicon. And the same has been done by the John Milton here, but the Milton is not invoking the help of Greek god or the pagan god. John Milton, being Christian, being Puritan, being a religious or ecclesiastical figure, John Milton is invoking the help of great God and the God for invocation, John Milton's God for invocation, and the prophet Moses' God, both are invoking the same God, and who was living, not living, who on the top of Mount Oreb or Sinai inspired the prophet Moses. And from the same God John Milton wants to get inspiration, from the same God John Milton wants to get help, from the same God John Milton wants to get inspiration for his poetic work. And remember this thing, after getting inspiration on the mountain of Oreb or Sinai, the prophet Moses, he taught the chosen seed how in the beginning of heaven and earth was created from the chaos, and he taught his nations regarding the creation of the world. And after that he gave them the message of God and gave them message of God, and he told them the purpose of God and its creation, purpose of this world and the creation of this world. And the same John Milton is saying that I also want to explain the purpose and the reason of my epic poem. That's why he is also seeking the help of the God of Moses or heavenly muse to help him, as he has helped the prophet Moses to teach and to explain different things to the nation, to his nation, who were captivated by the Egyptians. And next the poet says, poet is invoking the God, poet is seeking the help or inspiration of the God by saying, O God, if Sion hill, that was a sacred hill, and it is situated in the Jerusalem, and this was the hill that is on which the first temple of God was constructed by the Jews, constructed by the Israelites. And beside that sacred hill there runs the seal was broke fast. And actually why poet is taking these things, discussing these things, and poet says, poet is trying to talk to God, poet is trying to seek the help of God by saying, oh God, if a seal was broke that runs very fast on the sacred mountain, sacred hill of Sion, on which the Jerusalem city and the first oracle of God was built, if it makes you happy, please help me for my poetic work, for the work that I have decided to explain, for the work I have decided to explain to my nation, to the people of whole world, to the mankind as a whole. So in this way, students, the poet is also seeking the help of God, as it has been done by the prophet Moses. And actually poet is comparing his seeking of inspiration with the seeking of inspiration of prophet Moses, so that poet is also thinking the Prophet Moses, the work, the mission done by the Prophet Moses is it, and even the mission of the John Milton is same. Actually, Prophet Moses was instructed by the God to go and to teach the Israelites, and later to liberate them from the slavery of Egyptians. And the same John Milton wants to do for his own nation. First of all, he wants to preach them, then he wants to teach them, and after that he will justify the why, for what sake he is doing. Definitely that is for the noble purpose. And students, this is the end of our discussion, and now I am going ahead to discuss the few things for you. Let's move ahead. Here I have mentioned the summary, and you can give a complete read and understanding to this summary, and after that you can create and you can write your own summary, as well as you can follow this sample. And after summary, then the next section is the question number 1, that is Paradise Lost as an epic poem. This is the first question, and the student, our first question is to prove that Paradise Lost is an epic poem. And remember this thing, here we have to see that the different epic characteristics, epic features, and remember this thing, we can find easily the different epic features in the 12 lines as well as in the start. And later we shall find a lot of other features that we shall discuss with the passage of time. And number 1 is media res. I have explained it in the next slides, you have to read there. Then the next thing is the invocation to muse. It has been discussed in the 12 lines. And the third is begins with the statement of the theme of epic poetry, theme of John Milton's Paradise Lost Paradise Lost has been mentioned in the starting 12 lines. I have discussed with you, as well as the theme of man's first disobedience. These are the 3 features that we can find easily in the 12 lines, and we have to work on these 3 features. And in this way, while reading the text, we shall prepare a lot of questions related to Paradise Lost Book 1, and it will be easier for us at the end to prepare the questions easily. Student, here is a first point, that is epic invocation to the muse, that I have discussed while discussing the text. And you can read this epic invocation as a sample. This has been made by me. And students, you can you can Google these topics on internet, but the last no need to copy and the paste. The material intellectual property of others you can read as a source, and after that you have to create of yourselves. You have to create by yourselves, and this will be your moral, ethical, and the professional duty as well as. And remember this thing, here I have used different textual references, heavenly muse, and see, I have used it in inverted commas, and the same thing you can do, and you have to do even. And Oreb, see, in inverted commas, Sinai I have used in inverted commas, and after that see. And the lines that are discussing the epic invocation I have mentioned here as a proof, as a reference, and the reference will start from the quotation mark, and here it will be ended with the quotation as well as these 3 lines. And the same approach you have to use for the discussions. And further you can read it by yourself. This is for you. And after epic invocation, the next point is theme I have discussed here in the same way, and this is waiting for your reading, and must read the theme, and in the same way you have to write on the point of theme for your work. And see, here I have also used the references, different references in quotations, first disobedience, and here I have mentioned the quotation that are discussing the theme as a proof to prove this discussion that I have mentioned above. And the same approach you have to use for all the literary discussions of this subject as well as other subjects. And after theme, I have discussed religious elements are the biblical references in Paradise Lost, especially book 1. And remember this thing, student, these 3 points I have discussed, but I have discussed all these 3 points from the starting 12 lines. Starting 12 lines. It will be increased with the discussion ahead. And the religious elements I have mentioned here, and as a proof I have mentioned lot of quotation, a lot of words that are from the Bible and that are from the different biblical sources, and all see how I have mentioned them. I have mentioned all those nouns, words in quotations, right, and separated by the commas as well as, and the same way you will use. I have used lot of, you can increase the number of biblical references biblical terms, and even you can reduce them as well as. It will up to you. I tried my best to use from the 12 lines. Let's move ahead. And next I have used the very important point, that is the media res, and this is epical tradition to start epic from the media res. No doubt the epic poem of John Milton, that is Paradise Lost, has been starting from the media res, from the midway of the action. The main action have been passed, main action have been done 100,000 and unknown countless years before the creation of we can say before our advent on this earth. 1,000 years before it has been done, and many thousand years later John Milton has started his epic poetry. That's why we can say that the Paradise Lost is starting from the medias res according to the rules given by Aristotle in his book Poetics. And here you can, this is also for you to read, and I have discussed different points. And medias res, see, of man's first disobedience, and from this point the writer is starting the Paradise Lost, poet is starting his Paradise Lost. And of man's first disobedience, you can see that the first act of disobedience have been done thousands year before. That was when Adam and Eve both decided to eat the fruit of forbidden tree, the fruit of apple tree, or the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And when they have eaten, same time both have been sent, and even the Bible says both have been thrown from paradise to the earth. And on earth they faced lot of miseries, problems, pains, troubles, etc., and even the death as well as. Death is the part of this world. Remember this, students. Death is not the part of the paradise. There is no concept of paradise, death, miseries, problems, tension in the paradise. Anyways, this is for you to read, and here I have as a proof I have added the textual references, and further I have added more references to prove that the Paradise Lost is starting from the media res, right? When we are saying sing heavenly muse, this is also from the midway. He is not talking about the prophet Moses, but we are adding references. But directly he is calling the help of, he is seeking the help of the God, help of the muse who helped the prophet Moses, right, for his nation. And from the same muse, from the same God, John Milton is also seeking the help for his nation as well as. And these students you have to read carefully, and I hope these slides, this discussion will be very helpful for you. Thank you very much, and please subscribe, watch, and press the bell icon of the Ibex education. Students, thank you very much. And here I have added one thing more, that is about the diction language. This point will be discussed later, but here just little hints of the diction related to the discussion of diction we can find from the starting 12 lines, and this is for you to read as well as. Thank you very much, students. Thank you for watching.